everything, Nesters. Yes, some of you are wondering when the next pod was coming. Some of you are wondering if a pod was coming at all in 2026. But we waited for the best possible moment to drop the first one of the season. The win after North Melbourne, over North Melbourne rather, is a time when everyone is absolutely elated, Drew Jones. We win the second half against Gold Coast and we just managed to cruise past North Melbourne after a slow first quarter. We're off and away, and Eagles fans are loving every single bit of this to start the year. Hello to you, my friend.
Flag Coast. We're back, baby. We are back. And so's the podcast. You know, I thought to myself yesterday, because immediately as we started charging away in the third quarter, I was like, we've got to do a podcast. Like this is the perfect platform. And then in my head, I was like, would we have waited until the first win? Was it always going to happen this week? There's no way of ever knowing, but there could not be a better launch point in the season for us. And was it 308 days, something like that, between victories? It's a sweet, sweet way to roll in on a Monday. My camera operator is a North Melbourne supporter. He's the first person I see when I start work on Monday. And then I bumped into Courtney Walsh, who writes for Fox Footy and, you know, a career sports writer. He's a North Melbourne fan. I saw a journo who was a West Coast fan, a media manager who was a West Coast fan. This is my introduction back into work for the week. I don't normally work Monday mornings. And you can just talk footy, talk about all the good performances. Like, you just forget how bloody good it is.
It's awesome. Fathers, so time can sometimes get the better of us, and both got kids under one. So it's been a little bit tricky to get a podcast underway. We tried last week, but time got the better of us. So we're delighted that we've been able to get it done for this week. And yeah, I mean, I actually had a function last night, Drew. So it was one of those functions where it started at 6 o'clock, which meant, you know, that was ball up time over here in Sydney, which meant phone was off. Told a few mates at the function who are footy heads, do not tell me a thing. I'm watching it when I get home. Get home and made a mistake when I went on the IQ and clicked on the wrong link to the game. I actually saw the score halfway through the last quarter, right? So I was pissed off because I've waited 3 hours to watch it. Phone's been off. But I'm kind of happy as well that I've seen the score and we're ahead by 3 goals, but it wasn't over yet. But I'm trying to block it out, going back to the start of the game. So when we were down by 5-6 goals early, I wasn't dismayed as everyone else because I knew we were coming back and moving ahead. But I still watched every single bit of it and loved it. And then obviously we hang on at the end. I mean, there's so many things to pick apart. But I think we've just got to start with the fact that this has signalled the start of the new era. We all of a sudden have not one, not two, but 5 to 6 glamour kids that will just shoot us up the AFL rankings sooner rather than later, probably. When you look at things with full perspective, Harley, Dersma, CDT, who was incredible for a player of his size 2 games in. Obviously, big Joby Shanahan, who we know is going to be elite. Bo Allen is coming through, your beauty. And we can talk about shelving the Jagger Smith pick 3 trade in a moment because isn't he showing great signs? Obviously, Ruben Ginbey, obviously Brady Hoff, Milan Murdoch, Hamish Davis doing a job on the wing. But it's those 5 elite youngsters, the blue chippers, your first-round draft picks who, Archer Reed as well, of course, we need to mention, is looking really strong at the moment. They're the ones that are really getting us enthused because we know they've all got superstar status about them.
Yeah, so you didn't experience the game quite in the same way that we all did, which was those costly turnovers. There were some really bad moments for us in the first quarter, and you just kind of had that sinking feeling where North Melbourne were coming off a good win and we were just gifting them goals and they were able to take them and convert their chances. But, we had those couple little moments, like Dersma kicks his first goal, crowd gets up, and then Cooper Duff-Tyler, incredible below his knees, athleticism, that basketball, insert Scott Pendlebury joke here, but, spatial awareness, able to step in and out of traffic, this beautiful snapping goal. I'm like, no one does that. No 200-centimetre 18-year-old does that. And they're the moments that are supposed to tide us over. And to get those brilliant moments from our young players. A couple of times Bo Allen in his first couple of weeks he's grabbed the ball and burst away from contest, and he's shown some dare and some dash, and some of that stuff that the Eagles obviously saw when they were scouting him and wanting to bring him to the club. And then Harley Reid. It hasn't always been about the flashy moment for him. There's been hard work and there's been graft and it's been, metronomic. Get the ball, get to the contest, use a good handball. And then occasionally we see him burst away from stoppage and do some really nice things. And so not only do we get the nourishment of all that, we also get the win. Like we get some substance, a full team performance, like a Tim Kelly come back and look engaged and play his role and actually execute skills. And then, Milan Murdoch, this amazing story of a guy who was too small and told he's not good enough and just was like, I'm going to be the fittest player in the waffle and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And then he comes in and shows, a lot of fight and passion, like the way he grabbed Harley and like was, almost trying to ragdoll Harley as part of a celebration and getting around all the boys. Like there's just so much. There's so much great stuff, and it's not always going to be like this, North Melbourne, not a great club and not a great team, but yeah, it's nice to have those moments.
And if we'd lost this, I think we were a very good chance of reaching our worst run of consecutive losses in club history, because it would have been one off it. So if we'd lost to Port, we would have equalled it, and then lose to the Swans. You got it on your own, which would not have been a nice bit of history, even though the record at the moment is only from a couple of years ago. So it was great that we've ended that. And also just, such a winnable game on paper. And I've kind of been a little bit annoyed with some of the talk around North Melbourne, no excuses for dropping this game. I think it's been a little bit disrespectful to us. Not that we deserve much respect, but a lot of people just thought North would roll over to Perth after beating Port and they'd win. Well, I always thought we'd be in the game. But that being said, it was one on paper that you look at and you go, all right, geez, if we don't nab this one, it gets a little bit tough potentially. Yeah, there are other games and we might cause an upset here and there. And middle of the season when you play Richmond and Essendon and Melbourne, okay, there's chances. But you don't want to get to round 9 with 0 or 1 win to your name. Just to get that one early in a winnable game on paper just settles everything. It's great for the coach to give him some belief. And for so many players who deserve a victory, it just gives them such, a big step up. So they've got to go on with it now. It can't just be, we're so happy with that and, we're all right now, we can calm down. They've got to keep going at it. But it does feel like there has been, Drew, a mentality change. And the key to that has been our clearance and tackle count over the last 2 weeks. Smashed by Wits in the ruck in round 1, and we still evened or just about won the clearances, won the tackle count by a lot. And then on the weekend, Sherry again. I mean, Flinney was fine, kicks an amazing goal late, but, wins the majority of hit-outs, yet we still get pretty close on stoppages and the tackle count's right up there. So work ethic-wise, we've lifted, and around the ball with the big bodies like Graham and Robertson, Kelly coming in, Harley so much fitter, we have lifted our stoppage game enormously, which obviously just put us so far behind the 8 ball last season.
Looks like we've gone to work, doesn't it? And we've actually taken steps forward in that area. And, we sat here and discussed on this podcast so many times, just getting absolutely rinsed at stoppage and in clearance. So it really heartens me that we've been able to, even though we're not ever going to dominate in the air, we're able to at least make a contest at clearance. And there's no excuse, looking back on last year and whatever has happened there previously. But it's great to have that uptick. And I think Milan Murdoch sharked one of those hit outs yesterday and burst out of the middle, didn't hit the kick, but it still, showed a bit of stoppage and midfield craft. And then, Kelly, we know, played well yesterday. And then I've got to say, I've been so impressed with Devon Robertson. Like, he's come in, hit the ground running, looks fit as hell, tackling hard. Like, his appetite is just sensational. Like, it really makes me think he would have been such a good addition, a couple of years ago when we were close to getting him and he was nearly a West Coast player. But he's made a difference straight away. And, you bring in a couple of 25-ish-year-olds who are, him and Milan, who are, keen and they're tough and they're engaged and they're intense. That's exactly what we need right now. But you could I mean, you can go through almost the whole team. Like Graham has been immense the first 2 weeks in his pressure.
Hasn't he been great?
Yeah, and
Brilliant.
exactly like the best version of what Jack Graham could have been for us. He actually is delivering on it over the first couple of weeks. And then I don't know about you, but I just thought Liam Baker made a huge difference yesterday. Just wins contests. Like that is him. When the ball is on the ground, like we talked about this, didn't we? When you said he is a ground ball specialist, he just wins one-on-ones. When he doesn't matter where on the ground it is, he just wills himself. He's quick. He's clean. And yesterday, time and again, Baker got us out of tough spots, tight spots, and he turns defense into offense. And it was really nice to see. So we're getting that nice spread where the veterans are contributing, guys are popping, looking good. You know, Harry Edwards is a concern, getting another concussion.
Sure.
But the way that Shanahan...
That's a worry.
Yeah, the way that he swung back and just so composed. Rising star this week, you know, as a forward playing as a defender. Very impressive.
He is just going to be something special. I still can't believe 4 key forwards were taken ahead of him in the draft in 2024. So, yes, Edwards a worry, but, you know, the fact that Jinby can play on the number 1 key forward and play so well means it's not as big of a problem as, you know, it might have been, you know, halfway through last season. The prospect of us, after McGovern, you know, losing Harry Edwards for a period of time, we hope he's okay because Tyler Young looks fine. You can drop Shanahan back there, and then we've still got Starcevic to come back. So the back line still looks okay, considering, you know, Jinby and Tyler Young can be your key tools down back. So I think we'll be okay, but, you know, we certainly love Harry Edwards fit and firing. Elliot Yeo, I mean, we've all forgotten how good this guy is. Like, we know as Eagles fans, and we spoke about it at length, but I don't think any of us thought he would come back and play as well as this at his age after missing a year and with so many injuries. Like, he still looks to be, considering he's not at his absolute optimum fitness-wise just yet, an elite player of the competition.
He's still just an A-grader. Like, I think, you know, like he's a gamer. Like, he's born to be a footballer, and you know that goal from the boundary yesterday, like that's going to be a really it's going to be an image indelible in our season, where like that's the image of us winning that game is Yoey's amazing goal from the pocket. You know, Harley Reid tries to get around him, and the boys show a bit of mongrel, and you know all the facets of what Elliot Yeo makes him great as a player. His clearance work was good, and he gets penetration with his kicks. Like, I know it's like simple, but also 666. If you win a clearance and get it long, we've got Waterman and Co up there who can do some damage and put North Melbourne's defence under pressure, and Yeo was able to do that. So I like this split of sort of half forward and a bit of midfield, and I think the fifth man on the bench, I think that suits us with Elliot Yeo. We don't have to overload him with time on ground. Like, we can bring him back and build him up slowly and not overdo it.
The forward role also makes sense because we've got Baker playing down back and we've got Starcevic coming back in and Duggan's there. There's experience down there. The forward line needs a bit of that experience and craft. Like, Cripps won't play every week, but he deserves a mention as well. The other guys are youngish, but Cripps' 2 goals, you know, really gets us back in the game in that second term. That was a massive moment for him, and he's still doing the job. And a shout-out for Liam Duggan, because there's a moment late in the game, Drewy, where, you know, the game's not sewn up just yet. We're ahead. We've got a nice buffer, but, you know, they kick 1 or 2 quick ones, and it's really nervy. And he just gathers it and spins across half-back and breaks himself into space. And I went, wow, that's the Liam Duggan of old. And I hope that's a moment that a lot of Eagles fans sat back and went, all right, I'm going to give Liam Duggan a break. Enough crap talking about Liam Duggan, which shouldn't be happening anyway. He's a captain, he's a premiership player, and even if he's not playing his best recently, he's putting his heart on his absolute sleeve every week through tough times. But that was a moment where he showed his class, and I hope he shut up a lot of people with that.
Yeah, he got better as the game went along, no doubt about that. It was interesting yesterday, wasn't it? Like, we saw Constanti do a job on Tom McCarthy, who was playing VFL less than a year ago, and now is getting tagged in an AFL game, which is quite extraordinary. But he sort of fought through it and became more influential as the game went on. But it wasn't left to the same old people, and I think that's so promising for us. I just wanted to quickly touch on the young guys, and we covered at the top.
Yeah.
I've been really impressed with how clean and composed Willem Dersmer is, and his skills are beautiful. That second goal that he kicked yesterday, like that was clinical, the way that he was able to, receive and really steady himself. Great balance. I mean, he just looks like he's going to be a, ironclad All Australian, 250 gamer. So we've ended up with a superb young player there, and I just can't sing the praises of Cooper Duff Titleist, strongly enough.
Yeah.
For someone his age, his height, to come in at AFL level and make an impact in the air and on the ground is just so impressive. And, if there was ever a moment where West Coast were having their eyes stray from taking CDT with our second pick, they'll look back at that and say it was the absolute right and only decision to take him.
Yeah. Well, we put our hand up and apologised. We had nothing against him, but we just wanted a couple of mids, right? So we wanted Roby, I think. So we thought, just get mids in. We need mids. But CDT was absolutely the right pick because of the rule changes, firstly. Like, it's going to, as he becomes a ruckman more and more, these new rule changes are going to suit him down to the ground.
He will dominate.
So that's going to be exciting.
Yep.
He will. But everything he does, the thing I love about him, everything he does is clean and effective. And it's not just when he gets the football. It's the chase. It's the tackle sometimes. He makes an impact with everything that he does, and he's a different player to Natanui. But that was the beauty of Nick Nat, is that the numbers wouldn't necessarily be high, but the impact was so high because every time he was around the ball, he made something happen. That's happening with CDT, whether it's a ground ball pickup, whether it's a contest in the air, even if he doesn't mark it, he impacts the contest. Whether it's a shot at goal, he's skillful. A chase and tackle, every time he's around the ball, he creates something. And, that is just so incredibly promising for the future. Shanahan, we've spoken about, just an absolute beauty. Archer Reed, he's starting to... We've always thought he was hugely talented. We've all known that. But let's be honest, back half of last season, he wasn't actually impacting games much. When he was having shots at goal, he was missing them. Going up for contests wasn't really strong enough in them, wasn't taking enough marks. He's taking his marks now. He's kicking well. He's starting to have an impact on games. And he's got a little bit of that aura about him, a bit of strut, which is handy. So he's coming along in a beautiful manner as well. And then, Bo Allen... So I agree with you hugely. He's having an impact. He's so much quicker than I think we thought. He's bursting away. And a big talking point, rightfully so, was the Jagger Smith trade early in the season, considering his impact at Carlton. Well, we can shelve that for a while, maybe forever potentially, because we're now seeing the quality of Bo, and he's not going to be just a halfback, even though he plays superbly there. When you're that quick and you've got that much ability to win a contest, you can run through the midfield and impact games there and actually start to create forward of the ball as well. And then we get Baker as part of it, who you don't need to talk any more about that. And then Jack Graham doesn't come without Liam Baker. They were a package deal. So I think we've done pretty well. So have Carlton, obviously. It looks like the ultimate win-win, potentially.
Yeah, and look, Bo Allen, it's early days, but his start to the season has been good. I think just reflecting, Garby, on the trade and the context around, like, Jagger is going to be a great player. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But we needed Baker for various reasons. But the reason that it's become this really big deal and something that gets referenced a lot is not only that Jagger has made a great start, but Bo Allen just had this year from hell, and he had illness and injury. He just wasn't able to get going. And I think there quite possibly could have been an element of this extra attention on Bo, which I don't think helped and helped him settle into AFL life. And what Eagles fans needed in that time was the draft pick to hit the ground running. And it didn't happen. So it just became a big issue because we gave away Jagger Smith. And yes, he did his ACL. And there was this element of it, or this opinion from fans, that we didn't have to do that trade to get Baker, and we could have gone about it a different way. So there's just so many facets, but ultimately it piles the pressure on Bo Allen to be something. And maybe he just needed a little more time to settle in, and things didn't go right from him, right from the start. So I'm not sure if I'm explaining myself really well here, but I just think that there's been mitigating circumstances, and now hopefully Bo has this nice runway where he can show us what he's got, and hopefully there'll be less pressure and the signs right now are good.
And isn't it great seeing Harley impact games after his massive preseason? The second half, he was running easily to contest. And anyone who's played sport, even if it's at amateur level, when you're in good nick and you can just get your way through games and running doesn't feel hard. I watched him late in the game and I thought he is moving really well to get into space. Like he's leading his direct opponent by 5 metres to the footy. And doing that late when you need to control the game and impact a game is just so important. And then, he still has moments where he's frustrated and he niggles, and that's all right. Mitty wants him to play on the edge, so he won't always get the balance right, but he seems like he's in a pretty good place with it. But he'll be able to manage that better when he's fitter, because he won't be as frustrated. He'll be clear-headed, 30 disposals, he gets the 10 coaches' votes. Yeah, it's such a promising situation around HR9 leading the midfield.
Can't wait to see him against Butters in Adelaide this weekend. And, I think that was sort of the key point that you touched on there, was that because he's fitter, like everything is easier. Like he can do all of the things that he was previously doing because he's got the talent and the power and the panache and everything. But he can also do everything. He can do it, furnish it with everything else, and he'll get to contests quicker. He'll be able to break tags because he can actually keep running, keep going. And that's what I've loved. Like it was a workmanlike performance against Gold Coast without much flash, but we got a little bit of both yesterday. And the responsibility of being an AFL full-time midfielder, there's things that you have to do for the team and then for yourself, and it looks like Reid is doing that, which is a really pleasing part. And then just from a more holistic point of view, Garby, and again, because you knew that where we were in the game, there's just this moment at the last quarter at the start, where North Melbourne got a couple of goals and sort of sent my nerves jangling a little bit, but we were able to steady. Senior players took control, so we were able to win. You can't. There's one thing you can't accuse this West Coast team of. It's knowing how to win and to close out a game. But we were able to do it yesterday. Great sign of maturity, and.
Yeah,
I just get now. I have this optimism about this week where it's like it's a free hit against Port. They smashed us in pre-season. They were great against Essendon earlier in the day yesterday. We go over there, hostile territory, but we've shown pressure ratings are through the roof, and we're tackling and we're chasing it. So that's the baseline. If we put in that effort and bring that pressure, I'll be happy either way.
Well, no one knows what Port Adelaide are this season. They don't even know what they are. I mean, they smash us in pre-season and then they get smashed by North, and then they beat a woeful Essendon team. So how good are they? No one really knows. They've lost Rosie. That's a massive out. We played really well there last season, matched it with them for 3 quarters. Why can't we go there and give it a shake? I think we can. I think we could well be in this game. If the boys are, switched on again, not getting too happy with themselves after the win over North, and applying the same mentality they did from halftime against Gold Coast. So I think we can be well and truly in the game.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think we're a show. I think Rosie's massive because it might tip the midfield scales, maybe even slightly in our favour, which feels ridiculous to even say. But I think they've got quality. I don't know how deep they bat. So there's an opportunity for us potentially. And, Jake Waterman, I think, has started the season really well. He hasn't necessarily had his kicking boots on, but we haven't spoken about him, but he's obviously such a massive key for us, and we missed him so much last year, his ability. So we've got threats.
So it's interesting. It's interesting, Drew. You kind of forget about the players in their prime age a bit, because you speak about the youngsters and then you pay homage to the veterans. But your Watermans your Ruben Ginbys, who feels like that for us, even though he's really young because he's been around for a while now. Brady Hoff's another one. Like, they were brilliant yesterday, all three of them. But you kind of don't mention them because you're so excited by the kids and you want to respect the older guys. But
Yeah.
I don't think Hoffy played well against Gold Coast, interrupted pre-season, fitness not quite there. But one game later, it was supreme Brady Hoff. I loved his game yesterday and Rubes as well right there with him. And Jake's just been fantastic.
Yeah, so it was interesting, wasn't it? The Lindsay decision to not have him in the side surprised me a little bit, just not giving the youngster a couple of games to get acclimatised. And I wonder, with Edwards out this week, like how they'll structure up the back line. Like, do they just go with Young and Jimby or as the two like keys and bring like a Lindsay back, or do they lean on a Sandy Brock as the extra tall? Like, I'm really interested to see what they do there. They've also got Shanahan, who's shown he can swing back and play really well, AFL standard down back. So I'm fascinated to see the mix of the side this week. Elijah Hewitt's working towards full fitness, but then, with Milan Murdoch playing this well, like, I'm sure, Andrew McQualter didn't expect that Milan would come out and almost, lock his place in the team across the first 2 weeks.
Yep.
So it's great to have some selection pressure and a few decisions to make from that perspective. I'd love to see Lindsay back in the side, but, because I want to see our great young players out there, he'd be desperate to experience what's just happened and to get back in the side. But is there a spot for him?
There's so many others. I mean, think about how many guys are out. So, firstly, what a call to give Murdoch his debut against Gold Coast. Just bring him straight in. Like, people don't, same with the Australian cricket team, people only talk about selection blunders. They very rarely talk about the good selections. That's a great call to shove him straight in. Look at what he's done. So Minnie and his coaching staff get that right. There is a lot of depth now. We've got Starcevich and Hewitt to come back. Out of the team at the moment are Cole, Marrick, Lindsay. Then you've got so many youngsters like Hall, Bailey Williams, Mally Champion, who's started the preseason well in the waffle. There's a lot of talent that is sitting out. Finn McRae sitting back that's put a lot of pressure on guys in the team. And that's going to drive up standards as well. So, I didn't mind the Lindsay call. I thought it was interesting that we took our two best kicks out of the team, Marrick and Lindsay, from the defensive half. But, we added a lot of defensive strength. And it's only going to get stronger with Starcevich back. So I'm pretty calm about selection right now because I feel like they've got their heads switched on in that respect. They're making good calls. They seem to have a bit of confidence at the selection table. And, hey, whatever they do. There are options there, which it gives you a lot of calm as a supporter, that there are so many players to pick from.
One thing that we'll have with Starcevich that we will rarely feel is essentially you can take him and stick him on the opposition forward and say, they're not going to beat us. Like, we're not going to come out of a game and go, geez, Starcevich got a bath. That will never happen. Like, he's too good of a defender. So, going into a game, whoever it might be, and whatever the forward is that you want shut down, we're always going to have that option to sort of plug and play at some stage. So, a lot of excitement for this week, Garby. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, bring it on. It's been a great week. It's great to be back with the Nest. Looking forward to Port on Sunday. We've got these blue chippers, Dersma, CDT, Harley, Bowie Allen, Archer Reid, some others as well coming through. It's a really exciting time to be a West Coast fan. Great to get the win on the board and bring on Port on the weekend, Drew.
Mate, great to chat. Take care.